Good evening, friends, and you are watching Weekend at 5 with me, Navdeep Kaur Marwa. Today, we have a special guest with us in the newsroom. We have National Party's MP and spokesperson for immigration and education, Erica Stanford, with us. She will talk to us about the major news that happened yesterday about the border opening announcement and how it will impact migrants and students alike. Let's have Erica with us in the studio. Welcome to the show, Erica.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you again.
Same. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Had a nice restful holiday and raring to go.
Yes. So, Erica, just to begin with, what are your first thoughts with regards to the announcement that everybody was waiting that came yesterday?
Oh, look, I think the government hit what I call is a reality brick wall. They knew that they just couldn't keep the borders closed anymore. The heartbreak for Kiwis trying to get home, migrants trying to leave and come back, split families, they knew they couldn't do this anymore. And really, the risk now is in our community. It's not so much at the border. So, like I say, a bit of a reality brick wall. So, overall, pretty pleased with the fact that they've finally come to the party and realised we have to open up to the world.
Right. So, what are the kind of reaction you have got since yesterday? I'm sure people have been flooding you. So, what kind of reaction from the general public and from the community you have got?
I think there's a little bit of trepidation. I think people are a bit untrusting of the government. We've had this before where we've had plans and then they haven't gone as people expected, and so people are feeling a little bit cautious. Can we really believe them? But generally, pretty happy with the fact that the borders are going to be open and we're going to get back to some form of normality. Of course, it's a different story for migrants. I've been flooded with really upset emails from split families and people offshore who don't have any certainty, who have been pushed to the bottom of the queue. So there's some real heartache out there for migrants.
Right. So, what do you think should have been government's take with regards to migrants and to reunite families which have been suffering for last 2 years? What you would have done differently?
I would have prioritised them. Frankly,
Hmm.
I would have put them up there with Kiwis coming home, and that in tranche two, I would have put all split migrant families. They've given it a bit of lip service and said, oh, if you earn over 1.5 times the median wage, then you can be reunited with your family at stage two. Firstly, that's a slap in the face for migrants. You don't miss your kids more if you earn more money. Um, but also, most split migrant families will miss out in that category. Most split migrants family earn between the median wage and 1.5, so they won't be able to reunite in stage two. They have to wait to stage 5 with the rest of the world. So basically, the government yet again is relegating them right to the bottom of the pile.
Right. I know now it's very heartbreaking, especially with we have been flooded with queries since yesterday as to when we will be able to come from families which have been separated. It's a little heartbreaking, but we have to tell them to wait and watch.
Yeah, and I think what's particularly galling is the fact that these split migrant families who haven't seen their children and partners for coming up 3 years are going to watch the course of this year. They're going to see working holiday visas, people come in before them, sports teams come in before them, and what's a really real big kick in the guts, tourists from visa waiver countries will come in before split families. And I think that is very telling to anyone out there of how much this government does not value migrants.
Right, right. And also the moving to another sector of students. There's an announcement from April, 5,000 students will be able to come. So what do you see about that? And do you think there are actually 5,000 people, 5,000 students actually wanting to come? And how do you see this announcement affecting them?
Look, there's a few things I'd like to say about that. I guess the first point is great. We need to get students back, and I think it's a great move. I've got a couple of concerns. One, I read today that the Ministry of Education will be selecting who they are, which is a worry, rather than leaving it to the market. But I guess that the other thing as well is you're right. We have a trashed reputation around the world in terms of our immigration. I think when the governments say, oh, we're going to attract all these migrants, I'm like, what are you actually doing to attract them?
Right.
Just saying you can come is not particularly attractive when you look at the last 2 years and even before that with long queues, split families, people trapped here not being able to get out and come back, people being trapped offshore, not being able to get back in. We've really treated migrants horrifically in the last couple of years. And if you were a student coming to New Zealand right now, you'd probably look at that and go, am I likely to get stuck there and not be able to leave? Am I going to be able to travel out if my mother gets sick, for example? So There are a lot of questions to be answered. And I think probably the biggest one for me is it's all very well to say we're welcoming all these people back. But the question is, do Immigration New Zealand have the resources to process their visas? Right now, the wait time for a student visa is 3 months. So these guys are
Right.
talking about getting students back for term 2. I'm like, well, you better get your application in today, otherwise they're not going to get here.
Right, right. I completely understand that. And also, the another question is about how Australia and other countries are attracting students, and they're open to them. So, do you think we have been delayed in this, and we should have done this step quite early on?
I think we could have. I think we could have invited back students much earlier. You can see Australia has really targeted them. The same with working holiday visa
Mhm.
holders as well. I see in Australia, they are saying if you get into Australia before a certain date, we'll give you a cashback on your visa. Welcome to Australia, and we're competing against that. I mean, New Zealand and Australia very much compete for the same types of people. And so when you look at Australia, where there are greater certainties around pathways to residence, they treat migrants a lot better, and there are incentives to go there, we seem to be the poor cousin. And in a world where we're all competing for the same types of migrants, we don't have a lot to offer. We need to concentrate on what are we providing that's going to make people come here rather than Australia or Canada. And I don't know if that's there yet. I haven't heard anything from the minister as to how he's going to attract these people. Just by saying, oh, they'll have to earn more money, that's a condition. It's not an attraction.
Right.
So yet to see that from the minister.
Right. And lastly, about what is your take on, again, off-struck students and work visa holders who have been stuck offshore? There recently been an announcement in Indian Weekender have a report from like a statement from INZ saying that they are not thinking of, doing anything for them right now, and not even like Australia had their visas, they have renewed their visas for people who have been stuck and got their visas over there. So do you
Mm.
think what should be a strategy for New Zealand for all those people who have been crying and expecting government to do something for them because they have been stuck for no fault of theirs there?
Yes, well, you're right. The government have basically said from April, if you have a valid visa, you can come back in. But of course, you're talking about the people whose visas
Yeah.
have expired and the government have said nothing. And I have said this on your show and on this radio station a number of times. I predict that what they will do is allow those visas to quietly expire and then do nothing about it. I don't expect them to renew their visas at all. I think the government has got this new immigration reset where we're after much more highly paid, much more highly skilled people. And I think the chances of them going back and saying, oh, we'll renew your post-study open work visa so you can come and work here on minimum wage and whatever job you like, I think the chances are very slim. It doesn't match with their goals, of this higher pushing up this, or artificially pushing up this higher wage economy. So I can't see that they will do that. And I feel for these people. They have spent a lot of money here on education with the promise of being able to work to pay some of that debt back. And so it's a real kick in the guts for them.
Right. And another category that is right now talking about immigration, they're saying that about the one-off people who have been left out and wanting the criteria to be expanded. So government doesn't seem to do anything for them either.
No, it's frustrating. The minister really dug his heels in at the beginning and said, this is the category, it's not changing. And there are some like blatantly obvious categories. For example, that every year we bring in, I think it's maybe 100 or 200 Filipino nurses. It's a specific Filipino nurse visa. They're not
Mm,
included. Why not? I mean, that is a complete no-brainer. But I
mm.
think, he doesn't like to be called out and like he hasn't thought through things, so he's just not adding them. But we're going to go pretty hard on a few of those real no-brainers, like the PhD students.
Right.
We want them here. We want them to stay.
Right. So, my last question would be: what are the three things that you wanted the government to right now take care of and focus on? Maybe
Well, I think that
regarding border opening, regarding future of students. What are the key three things that you want them to focus on?
Look, I think the first thing is the split families. I mean, right now, you can't go further than, men and women who haven't seen their children for 3 years. They need to be prioritised. If I was the minister right now, I'd put them in stage 2, all of them, to make
Mhm.
sure that they could see their families. We owe them. They've been working here through COVID. That would be the first thing. Second thing is, it doesn't matter what you do with the settings. If people don't want to come here because you've got queues a mile long, it takes you 6 months to get a visa and another 12 months to get a variation of conditions. it's too hard, it's too difficult for people, they won't come. So actually, the minister needs to put some KPIs on his ministry to make sure that that it's run like a business. It's not Fortress New Zealand where we're trying to keep people out at the moment. It's the opposite. We need workers to come in. We need to have a change of focus. So that's the second thing I'd do. The third thing I'd do immediately is open up a pathway to residence. So you would have noticed that the government announced 20,000 extra critical workers can come in right now immediately. They won't have access to the R21 resident visa.
Right.
And there's no other pathway to residence because we don't know what the skilled migrant points level is. It's all been closed. So if you were sitting offshore and you were a very talented person, you wanted to come to New Zealand, the first question you would ask is, how do I get residence? And the answer right now is, there's no pathway. So why would they come? That's the third thing I do. I'd open up a pathway to residence to make sure those people who come now, who are well-paid, skilled people, knew that they had a certainty of residence.
Right. I believe and I hope the government listens to the need of the hour to unite the families, to have the reputation of New Zealand back in place where it was. And I hope you people keep doing the good work and telling the government that these are the things that is missing, the links are missing. So do something about them.
No, we will keep on them. No problem with that. You have my word.
Yes. Thank you so much, Erica, for your time and keep up the good work. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. So, friends, that was Erica Stanford, the MP from National Party and the spokesperson for immigration and education. She spoke about what are the lacks that immigration New Zealand is doing right now, what needs to be done to attract students, and especially how the government should focus on reuniting the split families. Keep watching indianweekender.co.nz to catch all the latest news.